Recently, I decided to build a research tank to study largemouth bass, spotted bass, and smallmouth bass. And after just 14 days, I'm already blown away by what I have seen. Now, if you know anything about me and my channel, you know that I absolutely love studies that have been done on bass. I love looking at older studies and even newer studies and really bringing them to life. I've done studies on bass behavior, on bass scent, on a number of different things. Now, with that being said, although there's been a lot of studies done in recent history, there really hasn't been a lot done that I think you guys would find interesting in the last couple of years. And bass fishing has changed a lot in the last couple of years. So I decided about a year ago this time, why not do my own study? Now, I had some friends over at the DNR, so I went ahead, gave them a call, and I had this great plan. What I wanted to do was take some of these radio transmitters that I had found online that I could purchase and actually have them put them in bass, and then I would go out with radio tags and actually track several different bass on one of my home bodies of water over the course of a year. I thought that this would be an absolutely awesome study on bass behavior and bass tracking, which it would have been, but I quickly found out from the DNR that that's illegal. You are not allowed to conduct a private study on a public body of water. So it was back to the drawing boards for me. The next thing that I thought about doing is actually looking into building a pond. I have about an acre of grass in my front yard, and I figured I could put probably a 1/4 to 1/2 acre pond in that particular area. And I do think that I'm going to do that at some point in time, but by the time I started adding up all the different costs associated with building pond and hauling out dirt and everything that I would need to do, it was going to be very timely and a lot of money. So I decided to basically shelf the whole idea for a number of months. This video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. And right now, for a little bit of time, I'm actually running a sale over on the website. If you buy a USA-made sun shirt, you can actually get a duck hat, which is a waterproof, very durable, lightweight hat that floats in the water for an extra 10 bucks. So altogether, that package is $64. Usually it's $90. So you're saving about 30% on the overall retail value. If you guys would like to help support the Bass Fishing HQ channel, click that link for Fin Fishing down below. So after a couple of months and after watching an obnoxious amount of Bama bass videos, I kind of decided that I might be able to kind of somewhat study bass and pick up on some interesting things about their behavior if I got a simple fish tank. So I started looking around for big fish tanks, 400, 500, 1,000 gallon tanks. But if any of you guys have ever done that before, you know that a tank like that costs a lot of money. And the thing about it, I didn't really want it in my house anyways. And so what did I do? I took to Amazon. And sure enough, after a little while on Amazon, I found a 470 gallon koi fish pool pond thingamajigger that was 160 bucks. And I thought, perfect. Now, after getting this from Amazon, I set it up immediately, but I also knew that I wanted some sort of cover prevalent in the pond. I didn't want these fish to just be swimming around in something that wasn't kind of normal to them. So I decided I wanted to kind of line the bottom of this thing with some river rock and also add some bigger boulders and eventually some sort of tree and definitely some vegetation. So I went to the local Menards here and was able to pick up several bags of river rock. And the thing that I found out about this stuff, it comes extremely dirty. As a matter of fact, you need to make sure if you ever do this in the future that you clean these rocks off because they're basically covered in mud. And I did spend quite a bit of time actually rinsing off all these rocks, even using my wheelbarrow to try to get things really, really clean. But even after doing that and putting the rock down and then adding all the water to the tank, it still came out extremely muddy. So I ended up having to actually flush the tank out several different times. Now, after adding a little bit of a water conditioner to help dechlorinate the water, the next thing that you need in order for fish to really live and thrive is you need something that is going to create oxygen. And personally, I wanted something that would really help keep that water clean. In order for me to study the fish, it needs to be really clean water. Now, the more and more research I did, the more I just felt that I needed to build kind of like this homemade bog filter. And if you guys don't know how a bog filter works, guys will add these to their recreational ponds and guys will add these to their koi ponds. And I went ahead and built one myself. So basically, I have a pump that sits in the tank. It pumps into the bottom of my bog filter. That bog filter is then lined with big rock and then a little bit smaller rock and then river rock and then pea gravel, and the very top layer is sand. And so as the water is forced up through all that, not only is it going to filter the water, but eventually you're going to have a colony of bacteria that really grows on that rock, and it really helps to clean that water and keep that water crystal clear. So I went to the local Home Depot, I figured out ways to kind of build this thing, and I put something together. And look, if you are a plumber out there, you probably hate the way that I did this, but look, I am not a plumber. I just put it together the best that I could. But after I figured it out, I turned it on, and sure enough, that filter started running, and actually it has done a very good job. Now, a huge part of kind of this study and what I wanted to do with this tank was I actually wanted to look and study all the species of bass, a largemouth bass, a smallmouth bass, and a spotted bass. But before I put any kind of bass in this tank, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was a little bit scared of just my whole setup process. I didn't know if the fish were going to live. I didn't want to kill a bunch of bass. So what did I do? I went to the local pet store and found a bunch of goldfish for about 38 cents. Put them in there, and I'm telling you what, those goldfish had the absolute time of their life. Now, after having these goldfish in there for about 2 weeks, I felt pretty confident that the tank was good to go, but I was still just a little bit nervous. So I went to my parents' pond, I caught some bluegill, I put the bluegill in the pond, and they've actually been in the pool pond now for about a month, and they have been doing extremely well. I feed them earthworms. Actually, all three of my boys feed them earthworms all the time, and they really enjoy those worms. Okay, now stick it just in the water. He'll come over and get it. All right, Mav, you grab another one. All right. So after keeping these fish alive for a long time, I knew it was time to put the bass in and actually start studying the bass. And I will let you guys know that within weeks, I really discovered something about these bass, and it just makes a lot of sense as to why sometimes, especially in the summer, it can be so difficult to actually catch a bass. And I really wanted bass that were kind of in between that 12 and 13 inch range. I didn't want giant bass in there. I just wanted like keeper sized bass in there. Because one thing I really want to do while studying them is just kind of study their growth. How much do they grow over the course of a year? Now, I was able to catch a smallmouth bass and a largemouth bass out of a local lake, but I didn't catch a spotted bass. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna have to travel a little bit farther south in Ohio if I want to be able to put a spotted bass in this tank, which I'm definitely going to do here in the near future. But I went ahead and I put those bass into the tank, and right away you could tell they were testing a lot of their surroundings. Now, one of the biggest things I was very curious to see right off the bat was how long would these goldfish last? After having the goldfish in there for well over a month, there was only 2 or 3 goldfish even left in there, and I didn't know if the bass would get in there right away and literally eat them. I mean, they stuck out like a sore thumb, but lo and behold, after a few hours, those goldfish were still hanging out around there. But after the first night, I woke up that next morning, those goldfish were gone. So although it was sad to see some of the goldfish that we'd had for so long leave, I did know that at least the bass were going to eat in the tank, which gave me a lot of hope that we would be able to kind of create a good system for these fish. Now, after a day or so of the bass being in this tank, I could already start to see that their stomachs were getting a little bit smaller. I really hadn't added any food to the tank yet, and so I knew that I needed to go get some food. Now, I really would like to feed these fish a lot of crawfish and little smaller bluegill, even some shad, but unfortunately, I didn't have anything pretty close by, and so I ended up going back to that pet store and I bought all of the small goldfish that they had, which ended up being like 17 goldfish. Now, when I brought these goldfish back, I kind of anticipated that the largemouth and the smallmouth would like just go to town on them. Like as soon as I put them in, I thought that they were going to be a feeding frenzy. I mean, if you look at the Bama Basses of the world or a lot of other people who have had largemouth or smallmouth in tanks, a lot of times you go to feed them, bass can be all over the bait fish. And so I was kind of expecting that. But to be honest, as soon as I threw the goldfish in, the smallmouth didn't do a dang thing, and the largemouth did go ahead and eat a few. As a matter of fact, we stayed there for about an hour and we saw that largemouth eat, I think, 3 different goldfish. But after that, he didn't really eat a whole lot. As a matter of fact, he kind of tucked into a corner and he just kind of hung out. So after it got a little bit too late, I shut off all the lights and went to sleep. And the next morning when I got out there to the fish tank to check on the bass, all the goldfish were gone. Now, this is actually kind of where we get into the meat of this video. And something that I've already learned about these fish is that these fish, especially the smallmouth, are primarily nighttime feeders. As a matter of fact, I have seen the largemouth eat several different small minnows. I have never seen the smallmouth eat anything that I've put in the tank. Now, I would say that this fish is not eating, but I can actually tell that this fish has gotten fatter. If you look at the video of it when I first put it in versus the video of it now, it actually has a little bit thicker gut, which means that these fish, and specifically the smallmouth, are primarily and almost only feeding at night. And here we are in the month of July. It's hot out. And the thing about it is that a lot of us don't go night fishing. And I remember reading this article a number of years ago that talked about how there are certain bass that will only feed at night. And although I kind of thought that that was true, I also kind of thought, you know what, if you probably present a bait in front of that fish at just the right time, he's going to eat it no matter what time of the day that it is. But no, I have even done a few experiments where I thought maybe it was just the light. So I turned off all the lights on the tank throughout over the course of an entire day, and those fish never ate during that day. And so every time I go to put more minnows and more bait fish in this tank, it continues to hold true. So I'm very interested to see what all we are going to learn from the bass in this tank. So far, it has already been a big learning experience. I'm also very anxious to see how fast these fish grow. I can already tell specifically that the largemouth has grown a little bit in size. So probably every month, I'm going to update you guys with what is going on in the tank. I hope you guys enjoy this content. If you do, let me know down below. Don't forget to check out that fin fishing gear, and I will see you guys in the next one.